Hi, and welcome to Corona Fine Art. Today I want to show you a tutorial on how to add texture to rocks when painting with acrylics. Last time I showed you on this painting how to lay the foundation for the rocks, how to mix a limited palette and add different values, tones to a shape. And also we worked on blending the color, and that is why you see a very smooth surface on these rocks. So today what we want to achieve is a more realistic look. So I'm going to be adding another layer with different marks and using different brushes, but using the same palette that we used last time. As I explained to you in my previous videos, I do several layers of paint on each of my paintings, and this helps me achieve a deeper, more successful and interesting look of my painting in any landscape or another painting that I'm creating. So I want to show you just the difference between, a smooth rock like you see right here and a rock that already has some texture added to. So you can see even, this rock already started laying some marks with this brush, the set of brushes that I'm going to show you in a bit, whereas these ones that are next to it are still very smooth. So this is just the beginning. Started making some marks to add on to the interest of the texture of the rock. So let me show you the rocks that I have here. Excuse me, the brushes that I have here today. I have 4 brushes that I'm going to be using. I have 2 flat brushes, a filbert, and a round small brush. And I'm going to be using the same palette that I used last time, so with the exception of one color. So this palette includes the burnt umber, the raw umber, ultramarine blue, black, and white. Whereas last time I had the sienna, I have 2 types of umber today. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and take one of my flat brushes, my larger brush, and I'm going to mix the raw umber with some ultramarine blue, some black, and some white. And this is the same palette as last time, so we're going to get very similar colors to the ones that we used in my previous video. But the trick here is that we're going to be adding dark colors on top of light colors to create a contrast between the different shades of the browns that we're going to use. So here I have my brush, and I'm going to start at the top here. I'm going to be adding a little bit more contrast, a little bit more shadow in certain areas. So you see how my color is so similar to the one I already have? I'm going to be adding a little more ultramarine blue and a little bit more black, just to change the intensity of that color. And I'm going to be adding it right on top with some different brush strokes. You don't want to cover the entire layer that you started with. You want to just create some marks on top so that some of that layer still shows through. One thing that you might be tempted to use is the fan brush to create texture. A lot of people use the fan brush to create all types of textures. And rocks and trees and the water and the sky for clouds. And sometimes it works great, and I use it often. But sometimes you need to have a little more variety in the shape of the marks that you do. And the fan brush sometimes doesn't allow you to have as much variety as you can have by using multiple brushes, as you see me doing here. So I'm using the same technique that we used last time to blend some of these shades. As you can see, I created a lighter value or shade of that color, and all I did is I added some white to that same dark paint, same dark color. I just added some white, and I can keep adding white and more white to make the color lighter and lighter, depending on how light I want to make my highlights here. And I don't want this rock to have too much, but just some suggestion of highlight. And I did change my brush to the round brush, small. Okay, so right here I'm going to start dotting. Some texture on this rock to give a suggestion of barnacles or those little slugs that grow on the rocks, that grasp on the rock. And we're just going to vary the size of the marks. And I also want some on this side, but with a darker value. So I'm going to go back to my original mixture of color and just add a little bit of white, and that's going to give me a slightly lighter value than the very first one that we had. And just right there, you know, you can see the multiple layers already coming together. You can see the smooth work underneath, some shadow right here, some darker spots, and then some lighter areas right here, suggesting that there's something grasping to the rock, or suggesting some rough texture. Just want to get rid of one of these lines here. Make it a little softer by blending it with a darker value. Okay. And I'm just doing the same thing, continuing doing the same thing all around the rock. Just layering the different marks of the brushes. Okay, and you can already start seeing a difference there. Going to change to my filbert brush. Going to take a little bit of black and a little bit of white, more black than white, to make a dark gray. So that I can add a little more detail here. just a little more black. Just some mark making here. And I want to go ahead and add a crack right here. The rock. Some little marks right here. And this takes very careful observation of what the surface of a rock looks like. So if you have photographs to help you reference, go ahead and pull those out to help you really see the kinds of marks that you need to do. And if you don't have photographs for reference, I strongly suggest researching images and start building a library that's going to help you observe, make these observations so that you can work on a painting and add those details that are going to make it really stand out. So I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of white and make a lighter value, just to add a little highlight here. And if you feel like you put too much paint, like I just did, just get a clean brush. I have my other flat brush, and we're going to come in and start spreading some of that paint around with the bristles. And start really blending it in to create a highlight there. Okay. Let me show you one more time. Sometimes if you put too much paint, you can always go back with another coat, another layer, and change the way something looks. So if I want to add a little bit more light right here, I apply a little bit of paint, and with my clean brush, I'm just gonna go ahead and blend it in. And if you did too much, just go back in with a darker color again. It's that easy. That easy to change your painting. Okay, I want to add a even darker shadow down here, the rock, with some black and some ultramarine together, just for a really strong shadow right at the foot of the rock. See? So you can already start seeing that rock come alive in your painting compared to these other two that are still in the beginning stages. Okay, so let's do a little bit more before we move on to the next rock. And you can always also edit the shape of something that you might not be happy with, like I'm doing right now. Just changing the outline of the shape of the rock a little bit. I want to show you a little bit more work on this rock right here. So again, I'm using the same palette. I'm going to switch to the brush that I started with, the flat. I'm going to get some of that dark base color that we mixed at the beginning. And I'm coming in, adding with some marks. Notice how I didn't just brush it all throughout. I brushed, picked up my brush, and then made another mark. Because like I said, you don't want to cover the entire base coat of paint. You still want some of that smooth to peek through from underneath. Okay, now I'm going to switch to a smaller brush with a darker color. I'm going to add a little bit more black and a little bit more ultramarine blue. I'm going to work on this area right here and adding some suggestion of something growing on the rock or something latching onto the rock, like you see very often in the ocean. So you can immediately see the rock starting to come alive just by working on layering or paint. Layering the same color but different value, so different tones of the color. And that's what is so fun about having a limited palette, because you can do a lot with only 2 or 3 colors. In this case we're using five colors. 5 colors can create very neat effects. So you can see the difference between those rocks that already have a second layer of paint and detail versus the ones that are still very smooth. You see how those pop out a lot more? Okay? And that's exactly what we want to achieve by building layer upon layer. Well, thank you for joining me today, and I hope that this tutorial was helpful. Also, if you would like to see me work on any techniques or any particular subject like water, trees, let me know in the comments and I will gladly make a video to help you in your next project. Make sure to visit my website for more of my work at coronafineart.com. Thank you.